Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday, April 13, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please, Denise.
Councilmember Selberg,
Here.
Sale,
Here.
Starr,
Here.
Brecky,
Here.
Erickson, Jensen,
Here.
Kylie,
Here.
Nitzert,
Here. All right, here to give our invocation tonight is the Honorable Pastor Charlie Moore with Sunnycrest United Methodist. I'd ask that you stand for his invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
All right, let's pray. Almighty Father, we thank you for this time we gather at the beginning of Holy Week, the celebration of your resurrection. We ask that as we come forward tonight, that you bless us with your wisdom, your patience, and your peace that only the Holy Spirit can bring. We ask that you bless everyone in this room and keep everyone safe. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, my friend. All right. Thank you, Pastor Moore, for the invocation. We'll move to item 4, our consent agenda. Any changes? Or if not, I'll take a motion there.
Move approval.
Second, Kylie.
Okay, motion by Selberg, seconded by Kylie to approve this. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Move on to item 11, our regular agenda. Look for a motion there, please.
Move approval. Thanks, sir.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Nitzert, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Before we move on with our agenda, just want to go over public input for tonight. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration at the time only. And during general public input portion at the end of the meeting, comments will be no more than 3 minutes per person. With that being said, we'll move on to item 12, please.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 111, alcoholic beverages.
Good evening, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. This ordinance before you tonight is to propose a new liquor license lottery system to replace the current liquor license waiting lists. I would appreciate your support on this item. I don't have any additional information other than what was given to you last week, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 12 tonight? Council, you have any questions for Jamie on this item?
Move approval.
Second, Jensen.
Okay, motion by Selberg, seconded by Jensen. Councilor Jensen?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to amend by amending section 111.012.01C to read, only one off-sale liquor license lottery application per business address will be accepted, and amending section 111.015.01C to read, only one on-sale liquor license lottery application per business address will be accepted.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Councilor Jensen, seconded by Councilor Kylie on that. Go ahead, Councilor Jensen.
I'll unpack it a little bit, but long story short of it is, if you look at one property per parcel ID, look at the mall for an example. If the mall has one legal description, it can only have one liquor license. So if you have a Red Robin and you have a Applebee's in the mall, they may have two separate physical addresses,
but one legal parcel ID. So we would be, you know, hurting that case. The other part about it is, this is how we typically do it, by physical address. So I think this kind of resolves that. If there's anything else the city attorney wants to bring into play, he certainly can.
That's a good summation of it. It's basically a transition away from legal description to business address to broaden the applicability and allow for more flexibility for businesses located on the same property.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Counselor Neitzer.
I like that end of it. My only question would be, and this, you know, goes back to discussions we had about medical cannabis. In this scenario, if somebody has built a 4-unit strip mall, could they potentially apply for 4 licenses, knowing that they're only going to run in one? Does that cover that potential?
Mr. Mayor.
Business address.
Jamie's up at the mic's going to answer Counselor Neitzer's question, and then I'll go to you.
Perfect.
Yeah, currently with alcoholic beverage licensing, if you own a strip mall, you could potentially apply, as you know, for a beer license or liquor licenses in each one of those, Suite 1, Suite 2, Suite 3, Suite 4. So yes, with this amendment, they could potentially put in liquor license lottery applications for Suite 1, Suite 2, Suite 3, Suite 4, yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Other discussion or questions on this item? Counselor Erickson, did you have a question or comment?
Nope, Jamie covered it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion here then? All right, let's vote on the amendment then, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Back to the main motion then that's been amended. Any discussion or further amendments there? All right, hearing none, let's vote on the motion as amended, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
All right, that item's going to pass 8-0. Move on to item 13, please.
Second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 30, ordinances, resolutions, motions, and other documents requiring council approval by requiring an annotated agenda. Sponsors, council members Brecky and Starr.
Good evening.
Council members, I think it'll be a little briefer tonight. Okay, so I'm going to give basically the same presentation I gave a week ago, but just maybe a little shorter. This is a brainchild between Tom Greco and myself. I wanted to try to develop an agenda that was more user-friendly, that had plain language descriptions of agenda items. And we've been working on it for a long time. The language, of course, is very easy to understand what we did there. So it's not a language issue that we've been working on, but it's a policy implementation issue. And Tom's been working for about 18 months with different departments to prepare them to be able to do these objective descriptions in a way that is consistent and that they're comfortable with and that doesn't create any kind of exposure or liability to the city. So he's been doing that, and it's ready to be adopted. The next slide is a sample of what the zoning kind of readings, this one. That one? What the zoning items would look like on this augmented agenda. And I actually suggest that we actually leave it in red. We could do it in red or white, but I think that would be helpful. And then we can do it for the ordinances as well. And so I think we're prepared to go live with it at this time. However, I'm receiving some input that there might be interest in doing a little more to it, and I'll be, willing to hear about that, what the ideas are that we might be considering on that. But again, it was just a starting place to actually create an agenda where the public would have kind of the same opportunity that we have, to look down at something that's really plain language that helps us understand what it is that we're doing, and so we don't get all caught up in the legalese. And I found it very difficult, even as a citizen and as an attorney, to understand the legal headings. And I thought this was very helpful when I got on the council and we had these red notes. And so that's sort of the backdrop for it. And then if you put up the last slide again, I showed this last week, so I'll be brief, but this was an example of two of them that I thought that were very difficult as far as describing what was actually going on. And if you just read those were actually the ordinance amendments that resulted in the amendments to the charter that were put on the election, for final adoption by the public. And so those are really important items. I mean, we're about to change the charter, and we really didn't give the public very good notice, in my opinion, about that. And I'm not here to say that, but that was just an example that I remembered. And so I, asked Jim to find that one, because I remember myself not really understanding what all was entailed there until we had the presentations at the council. So I think a brief description would be helpful, and that kind of a thing is the kind of thing that's so important that the public be invited to attend and participate in, and that they can just go online and read it and see it and know that, know what it is. So that's the basis for the ordinance revision, and I take any comments. I would hope that you would support me and approve it.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? All right, let's get a motion and we can go into any discussion then. Is there a motion on this item?
Second, Star.
All right, motion by Brecky, seconded by Starr. Discussion on this item? Councilor Jensen, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a substitute motion to refer item 13 to the Operations Committee and to report back to the City Council no later than our July 19th meeting.
I will second that motion. Thanks.
Okay. Motion by Jensen, substitute motion, and seconded by Neitzer. You want to speak to that?
Yep, thanks. I think this is a great start. I agree with Councilor Brecky that this has validity and it should be in some capacity approved. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a little bit more time with it. It was introduced last week. I didn't necessarily know that it was going on, nor should I. But I want to also get the public engaged in this process to maybe hear what they have to say. I want to, maybe address our city clerk to have his input in a public forum as well. So that is why I'm making that motion to refer it to our Operations Committee, because it seems like a really solid fit, and I'd really appreciate your support of that.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. Discussion, Councilor Kiley?
Thank you. I agree with the substitute motion, maybe for different reasons. Last week I did talk about how every document that's associated with our agenda items is available on your phone or on your laptop or on your computer or your iPad, what have you. However, I think that there is room for improvement, and I do believe that the Operations Committee is the right place to do that. And at the same time, we could look into, are there other places where we can improve efficiencies with what the council does too. So I will support the substitute motion. Thank you.
All right, other discussion? Go ahead. Councilor Brecky?
I guess I would, by way of discussion, obviously I'd like to see it passed before I leave. And this is a starting point. I understand if you want to do it and make it even better. And, I would hope that you would, end up passing something. Of course, I won't be here then. So I assume this is probably going to pass this way, but this also could just be passed, and then you could just, take that and as adopted and then go out and add more to it. So there's two choices. You could just pass this tonight, or you can defer it. Again, I would hope that, the Operations Committee, I don't think it's meant in 2 years, so it would, be nice if, it was there and there would be some, public involvement from it. I hope it doesn't just disappear, I guess, is what my concern is.
All right, other discussion here? Councilor Neitzer?
I would just say it is It is a great proposal in that, you know, it's hard to argue with having a accessible description that the average person can just quickly look at and see what it's doing. I mean, all the materials are there, that's obviously true, but it does take work to dig through it, and obviously, many people are not, you know, attorneys or in this every day, so I think, I love the merit of it, so.
All right. Any other discussion here? All right, see none, let's vote on that substitute motion to send this to Ops Committee then.
Councilmember Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
No.
Brecky.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Kylie.
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-1. Next item, please.
Item 14 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 35, Conflicts of Interest of Officers and Employees and Ethics Board to implement a mandatory ethics training program. Sponsors, Council Members Brecky and Starr.
Thank you. This is, again, what I'm calling is a transparency ordinance, the other one a good government practices ordinance. I'm proposing that we have required training for both employees, board members, and city council members of the ethics ordinance. And I'm just going to read you a brief statement. I did give a longer explanation last week, but this was the presentation that I gave to the Board of Ethics, and they expressed that they are in favor and support the concept of ethics training. That is from their minutes, and it was after me giving this presentation. I'd simply said that I'm requesting that they, adopt, or that the city council, adopt this ordinance. It's a model ordinance. I consulted an expert in the field in Texas. His name was Alan Borgwis. He's nationally recognized award recipient from IMLA for his work in ethics. He suggested adding a training provision. He thought otherwise our ordinance looked, pretty good. An ethics ordinance without training is a stagnant document that creates traps for uneducated elected officials, city board members, and city employees. Requiring regular training creates a dialogue and an understanding and an acceptance of ethical principles. It raises the expectations for performance of city officials and employees and increases confidence and trust in government. City charter requires an ethics board and an ethics ordinance and sets forth the topics that must be covered. The purpose of the ethics ordinance is to create a culture of ethics in the city. Currently, there is no ethics training in the city except for city employees. They do have a training module, and the same kind of format could be used to train both the council members, and the board members. However, at the city attorney's discretion, he could do whatever kind of training he wanted, and I left that really up to the administration and the city attorney's office. To determine the level of training and, to be creative with it. From time to time you want to do, more or less training. Requiring training will create an ongoing dialogue with city government about ethics and ethical issues and expectations. And so, again, I would request your approval of this. And I have one final comment, and this was a quote from and again, right now we don't have it for ourselves and the board members themselves, but we do require it for our employees. So, and it used to happen, and that was, I guess, another reason for it. There used to be regular training, and that's why I thought it needed to be put in the ordinance, because it just, somehow it just disappeared. And so that's a belief of mine that then it does need to be codified if you had it once and it just kind of went away. And then I have a quote from the ethics board president. I wrote it down. They don't record their meetings, but I wrote it down because I thought it made my point very well. He said, "I am talking about training for us, the ethics board. As I recall, it was just handed to us and we were told to familiarize ourselves with it." And that was by Jack Marsh, chairman of the ethics ordinance. So that was a revelation to me that they had not been receiving any detailed training, and that's a very important ordinance. And the ethics training itself, and understanding, again, the difference between personal ethics and a standard of ethics adopted by a code to try to create a code of conduct for entire organization. can also often be confusing. So I think the responsibility is a heavy one, and having, training modules for them or, training by experts would be a helpful program. And I would request your approval.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on this tonight? All right, council, you got any questions, or we'll take a motion, can move into discussion, I suppose? You want to make a motion to approve it, Councilor?
Move to approve. Brecky.
Second, Star.
All right, motion by Brecky, seconded by Starr. Discussion on this item. All right, hearing none, let's take a vote then, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
No.
Star,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
No.
Jensen,
No.
Kylie,
No?
Nitzert.
No.
All right, that item fails 5-3. Next item, please.
Item 15, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, providing supplemental appropriations to support the construction and operation of the University of South Dakota Discovery District Research Park located in the City of Sioux Falls. Sponsors, Councilmembers Sale and Erickson.
Councilor Sale?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we've talked about this for well over a year now, and I see the president of USD is here. I'd like to call her up to do a little presentation for us.
All right. Good evening, President Gestring.
Good evening, thank you. Just for those listening or watching online, Sheila Gestring, President for the University of South Dakota, also here representing the University of South Dakota Discovery District. Just by way of a little bit of background, the vision for the Discovery District really began nearly 2 decades ago, and a great deal has been accomplished in that time. In phase 1, we were able to secure funding to construct the Graduate Education and Research Building that is now known as GEAR, and that's home to our biomedical engineering PhD program initially, and now we've added the bachelor's program to that as well. And there's been significant evolution of that program. We also were able to secure land and the proper legislation. The legislature supported us with a study for the USD Research Park, the Discovery District, as well as expansion of GoEd. We received some funding from them for a clean room, I call it. It's good manufacturing practices, I believe, but to me, the description sounds it's much more than that, but that's my understanding of it in the simplest of terms. Phase 2, we received some funding from EDA in the city as well to begin building the streets and the infrastructure and really preparing those lots to be ready to build on. And now we're at phase 3, so this is our opportunity. And many of you heard last week, as well as during the legislative session, that the governor and the legislature approved $15 million towards this project for this facility. And we are here asking your support of item 15 for $3.5 million to be added to the $500,000 that was already in place, is my understanding. This is really about attracting those companies that can bring those jobs so that we're able to keep the most talented scientific minds in the state of South Dakota. We graduate brilliant scientists from our universities. This facility will attract the companies to allow those students to stay and work in South Dakota. And thank you for bringing this forward. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Oines, the Chief Operating Officer, for just a real brief overview of some of the current status of the project. So again, ask for your support, and I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening, Ryan.
Mayor, City Council. Ryan Oines with USD Discovery District. First of all, I'd like to thank the city for the ongoing support. We've been down a path and a journey, and have obviously, as President Gestring mentioned, the city was very instrumental in providing the infrastructure to pair with the EDA grant. It's that infrastructure that we have now that's allowing us to move to that next phase. And so as we go forward, we are planning a 50,000 square foot building, and utilizing the infrastructure that's in place. For those of you who are familiar, it's what we enduringly refer to as Francis and Nobel, the corner there. And then in 2019, 2020, we finalized Haynes and Pell Avenue around there, providing the spot that we can now start planning this next phase, which is a re-envisioned multi-tenant building. Obviously, through the leadership, as President Gestring mentioned, the state, Representative Peterson, herself, and then also President Abbott will push this initiative forward. And so we're in the beginning stages of all of that. We are identifying things like the proper process. We want to remain extremely transparent as we go through hiring owners, reps, and construction managers at risk, and then while implementing local resources as much as we can. So again, we are also identified anchor tenants as well as prospects who will work and collaborate with us from a local perspective and a state perspective, but also utilizing some of the resources that we have in place, USD's TRAC Technology Readiness Accelerator Program, and then also the brand new Tech to Launch, where we are pairing up with organizations such as Sanford and helping them commercialize or vet the commercialization of their new technologies. So the objective is that this building will house organizations that come out of that incubation process and that support process. So again, we ask for your support as a city, and very importantly, we want to thank you for your historical support that has brought us to this point.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Mr. Oynes, President Gestring, bill sponsors?
Move approval. Sale.
Second, Jensen.
All right, we have a motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen, to approve item 15. Discussion amongst the council on this one. Councilor Sale.
Make a quick point. This council has, for a year, put this on our radar as one of our priorities, and I really do appreciate this council's active engagement in public-private partnerships that are economic development that bring us to a higher level in Sioux Falls. So I'd appreciate your support again on this project.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Erickson, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Sorry, it's a little noisy where I'm at right now, but I just want to also provide some appreciation for those that are involved in this particular project. It's been a marathon as we've worked through this particular project, but the long-term benefits of this and the jobs that it will provide, as well as the research that it will provide to not only South Dakota, but beyond that, is really exciting. And so I'm hopeful for the support and super excited for this project to go forward, and just excited about it. For me, ending my term on supporting a project like this is so critical, as it's been 10 years for me supporting this in the legislature as well as the city council. So I'm super excited about it, and I hope that the rest of the council is as well.
All right, thank you, Councilor. Other discussion? Councilor Kiley, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Just briefly, I do want to thank Councilor Erickson and Councilor Sale for their efforts in supporting this particular item. And I do want to thank the good folks from University of South Dakota, President Gestring. I've actually been instructed by, I'm a jackrabbit, but I've been instructed by one of my USD friends to be kind to you. This is an easy one to be kind to you on because it's going to serve both of us very well. So the return on investment, this is another one of those public-private partnerships where the return on investment, I'm convinced, is going to be high. So thank you very much for your contributions to this effort.
All right, thank you, Councilor. Other discussion on this? Councilor Brecky?
Very exciting project. I've been excited about it since I heard about it and want to do anything I can to move it forward. So I as well am excited to vote yes.
All right, any final discussion here on item 15? All right, seeing none, let's take a vote on it, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kiley. Yes. Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Congratulations. We'll move to item 16, please.
Item 16 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, declaring certain property of the City of Sioux Falls surplus and approving gratuitous transfer of real property. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 19, 2022. Sponsors, council members Kylie and Sale.
Counselor Kylie.
Thank you very much. It'll be just a moment. Our PowerPoint is coming up now. This is an aerial view of the South Dakota State Veterans Cemetery, which is located just north of the city, just north of Slip Up Creek Road, and actually has Slip Up Creek running through the property. As you can see, the state has established a beautiful cemetery that meets the burial needs of our local veterans. They've just done a tremendous job on the project. The intent of this item this evening is to address additional and future needs of the state veterans cemetery. Mark, if you'd like to go to the next slide. As you recall, Councilor Rex Rolfing and myself worked on the Track 2 land gift donation. Track 2 was dedicated back in October of 2018. We had the groundbreaking in 2019. Ribbon cutting was just this past Memorial Day, 2021. And the first burial occurred 4 days after the ribbon cutting. And we've had over 300 individuals have been interred in the cemetery since that time. And Deputy Secretary Pollard will be able to address that more specifically in remarks here in just a moment. As stated, it is a beautiful facility and one that veterans and their families greatly appreciate. And I can tell you firsthand that attending a funeral provides a very different experience compared to my participation in groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. You witness firsthand from the by just viewing and then hearing from the families of the departed about their wonderful experience that was provided by the facility and as well as the cemetery staff. So I'll have to say that is very rewarding to receive comments of that, but this entire council and city are deserving of those comments, receiving those comments as well too, because it's a lot of individuals in addition to myself that have worked on this over time. Let's go ahead and go to slide number 4, please. So on December 6th of this past year, Director Cotter and I met with the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs Secretary Greg Whitlock, Deputy Secretary Aaron Pollard, who is here this evening, and Governor Noem's staff. And we pitched the proposal to gift additional land to the state. And the track that we're addressing this evening is referred to as Track 4, proposed gift of just under 14 acres. And the thought is, because I have been at the cemetery when there's been large funerals as well as other events, and there's been parking has been very tight. In fact, it overflows onto 477th Avenue, which puts pedestrians in danger as they're walking down the road to get to the cemetery site. So it could serve immediate needs as for overflow parking. It would also it would be up to the state how they're going to use the property, but it could provide a second access to the property, because currently there's one, as you can see on the east side there's one way in and one way out. This would give the potential at some point in the future to have another entrance and exit on the south end there. And then eventually it could be used for cemetery expansion as well. It allows the cemetery to really control what's on their southern border too. Gifting the land now will aid in the improvements of Slip Up Creek Road, which are scheduled for the summer, and Director Cotter will be able to address that particular point when he speaks on the item. Let's go to the slide number 5. Okay, Track 3 is not part of the item tonight, but I want to address it because, as you know, I'll soon be leaving the council. But this is a potential future gift of 136 acres to the north. Again, it provides expansion of the cemetery to meet the needs well into the future. It could be, in the interim, it could be planted in native grasses. Trails could be established. It could be established as a large nature area. Now, this particular item, it was determined that it would require legislative action, and unfortunately, we did not have the time to bring it forward in time for this past legislative session. Once again, it allows the state veteran cemetery to control what borders them, in this case to the north. And the thought behind this, until this property is needed for burials, the potential exists for trails in a nature area that could be used to benefit our living veterans. Currently, we're meeting the needs of our deceased veterans. Well, this could be dedicated to our living veterans. It could be similar to Parks for Healing, which have been established by the National Park Service. As Edie Joyner, U.S. Marine Corps and Desert Storm veteran, stated, being out in nature, it's just good for the soul. It's cleansing. It gets you outside of yourself. It's my way to decompress. Again, that was a quote from Edie Joyner, U.S. Marine Corps and Desert Storm veteran. Ultimately, once the land is gifted, it'll be up to the state as how to best put it to use. Like Track 4 that we're dealing with this evening, it will need to be used to support, in the support of veterans and the state Veterans Cemetery. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Deputy Secretary Aaron Pollard.
Good evening, Aaron.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Again, my name is Aaron Pollard. I'm the Deputy Secretary for the South Dakota Department of Veterans Affairs. Councilor Kiley stole most of my thunder, so I don't have a whole lot to say other than I just wanted to touch on a couple of points, and I appreciate you stealing my thunder. So 300 plus burials to date. The number as of yesterday was 324. So since June 4th, our staff out at the cemetery has interred 324 veterans and their loved ones. So we're pretty proud of our team out there, and wouldn't have happened without the gift from the city and the work that Councilor Kiley and Rex Rolfing and the mayor and everybody on this council did. So again, thank you very much for that gift. It's been a great partnership. We hope it remains a great partnership. And as Councilor Kiley said, that we have a proposed, the road being paved, Slip Up Creek Road and 477th there up to the entrance of the cemetery. The gift of this land would greatly advance that project and help the state out. And just to kind of piggyback on Memorial Day last year when we dedicated the cemetery, we actually bussed people into the cemetery for the event from the Military Heritage Alliance building because we had such a large crowd that came. We couldn't support parking at the cemetery itself. So again, I just want to mirror everything Councilor Kiley said. I wanted to thank Councilor Kiley, and I know Rex Rolfing isn't here tonight, but thank the both of you for the work you did to establish the cemetery as it sits today, and thank the mayor, thank the council, and continue to thank you for your support of the cemetery. And I just look forward to continuing the partnership.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on item 16?
Before we move, I'd like to call Director Cotter
My
to
apologies, you
present
bet.
as well. Thank you.
Mark, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Just a few notes to bookmark this discussion. Thank you, Councilor Kiley. It's been a lot of discussions, a lot of edits on the agreements, and we're finally here. I remember the first time that Mayor Tenhaken and Councilor Kiley met as we contemplated what's the best use of this land that's on both shoulders of the current veteran cemetery, which has been an absolute amazing asset for this side of the state, the entire state. And, you know, the natural owner of this land should be the State Veterans Affairs to really complement the current cemetery. And the administration's been in full support from the beginning. Just a bit of history for those that maybe weren't a part of the first transaction. In the 1970s, this entire area, there was an envision for Slip Up Creek Reservoir, and at the time that was probably one of the best ideas for a future water supply. But as more studies happened over the years, there's just more inherent challenges with that idea than benefits for the future water supply of the city of Sioux Falls. It required, while the Big Sioux River was running full, to actually pump water into it, and then during drought years, we'd actually pump it back. Stability of the and seepage and water quality issues, double pumping, just ultimately created much more challenges than benefits. And then, the early stages of planning Lewis and Clark, and to really connect 20 members and have a source of the Missouri River, one of the largest, most sustainable water sources in the country. The city of Sioux Falls is very fortunate to be a part of that. In 2012, we actually received the first drops of water from Lewis and Clark. It's been a fantastic partnership for the city. We're already planning, with your support, we're already planning the expansion of Lewis and Clark. So it really allowed and set up the first dedication of this first 59 acres of land to officially part ways with that idea and really put our dollars and our future plans into the Missouri River as opposed to this reservoir. So just for those that didn't have that history, wanted to make sure that you guys had it. We are looking forward to the road. The road's currently under design. The state's leading that effort. And if they can align all the funding, that is on track to be bid this year and built this year. So anyway, just thank you for letting us be a part of this, and we're here for any questions that you might have.
All right. Thank you, Mark. All right, and now I'll take any public input that anyone may have on this item tonight. All right, seeing none for that. Look for questions that you may have for Mark or for Mr. Pollard. Go ahead, Councilor Selberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just more of a statement than anything. Thanks for the presentation by Councilor Kiley and Director Cotter. This is a beautiful facility out there, and it keeps getting better as we move along with efforts like these by Councilor Kiley and Rolfing and many others, such as Deputy Secretary Pollard, who is here tonight. Thank you for being here. What a terrific gift. And yeah, this is just, it's been fun to kind of watch this come to fruition and continue to grow as we go along. So, and it's also kind of neat, as Councilor Kiley said, that it can be used now for living veterans. They can use it immediately too until the land, whenever it would transition over. So happy to support it. Thank you again for the presentation and all everybody is doing for this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor. Let's go ahead, Councilor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Cotter, as long as we're doing a little bit of history, did we appraise this track 4? And then you're usually really good with history. What was the city's initial investment in the land, if you know?
Well, the original cost basis of the land, there was different tracts bought in this area, but some of the land was bought in 1991. Some of the land was bought in 1996. There was some tracts bought for just under $1,000 an acre. Some land bought for about $1,400 an acre. So the cost basis that the city has in this land is very low. A fair amount of the 13.77 acres is treed and untillable. We do have a tenant that leases the tillable land that's on this tract and on tract 3. Largely, as you can see, when you look at the aerial, that is largely pasture. There's a lot of relief out there. And so, you can go on to Minnehaha County website to see what current tillable land is selling for. We looked at a cost basis, Counselor, back when tract 2 was gifted, and for the pasture land at that time, it was in that $3,000 to $5,000 per acre range. We were looking back on this saying, really from a cost basis, the city has got low cost to really demonstrate a significant benefit to the veteran cemetery, and we'd recommend the gift.
And notice he did that off the top of his head. So thank you, and I appreciate kind of having a value or an idea of the gift that we're making, or the citizens are making. So thank you.
All right, let's get a motion on the floor on this.
Move to approve.
Second, Brecky.
All right, motion by Kiley, seconded by Councilor Brecky. All right, discussion amongst the council, and again, this would be to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, April 19th, next week. Counselor Kiley, go ahead.
As I had mentioned earlier, there's a lot of people other than myself and even Counselor Rolfing that have been involved in this, what I call a labor of love. On the city side, I mean, it actually goes back to former Mayor Huther. Mayor Paul Tenhaken has been a supporter from day one when we first sat down and discussed this. This city council has been a huge supporter of the project too, and I hope that we have your support moving on into the future. Director Cotter, this wouldn't happen if it had not been for this gentleman sitting out here. Because if he hadn't stepped forward in, years ago, probably 6 years ago already, and said, I think we can do this, when Councilor Rolfing stepped forward, we wouldn't be here today. That cemetery that we see there on the screen may not be here today. So, big debt of thanks and gratitude to Director Cotter. Assistant City Attorney Stacy Koistra has obviously played a big role in this as well as Assistant or City Attorney Koistra, and didn't mean to demote you. Assistant City Danny Brown has played a big role in this and was involved in those back and forths that took place. Andy Berg has helped us tremendously with the tracks. Dustin Hanson and his crew actually cleared the farmstead on track 3, so that's actually ready and teed up to be gifted at some point prior to the next legislative session. Rich Murphy has helped us with some drone video and different shots of the property. And then our real estate members, Roy Fletcher and Matt Anderson, have played a big role too. When when Director Cotter initially, when Rex Rolfing and I were working on this, said, well, let's talk to our real estate guys. I didn't even know we had real estate guys, so I thought we'd have to go to Councilor Selberg for advice there, but we have our own real estate people. So big thanks to them as well. And a big thanks to Councilor Kurt Sale, because he's going to take the handoff here. It's like I'll be handing off the baton. I'm an old track and field guy, and he's going to be running with that track 3 gift at some point in the future. I hope to remain involved as a private citizen, but Kurt Sale will be heading that effort. On the state side, obviously, we have to thank Governor Kristi Noem and her staff that we met with back in December, and Secretary Greg Whitlock, and a special thanks to South Dakota Department of Veteran Affairs Deputy Secretary Aaron Pollard. Aaron and I have, we recognize the numbers when they come up on the phone now, because we've had so many discussions, and he's just been a great person to work with in this effort. So thank you. I know that went a little long, but there's a lot of people involved in this. It takes a lot of people to move something like this forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion on item 16 then? All right, let's take a vote on it, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Kiley,
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Move to item 17.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement for financial assistance between the City of Sioux Falls and South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Sponsor, Mayor.
Good
Mark.
evening, Mayor and City Council. This may be the second easiest vote that you have tonight. This is a companion item to the informational that we did at 4 o'clock to give you an update on the wastewater plant expansion, the financial constraints, and ultimately when the groundbreaking will be for the ultimate expansion. With the passage of Senate Bill 62 and the $600 million in ARPA dollars that have been dedicated to water and wastewater across the state, this particular project will qualify for $41,900,000, and this resolution, with your support, authorizes us to make that request to the Board of Water and Natural Resources, and we're here to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 17 tonight? Council, you got any questions for Mark on this item?
Move approval, Jensen.
Second Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
All right, that item's going to pass 7-0. Move on to the next item, 18, please.
a resolution approving the release of part of a permanent utility easement located in Lot 1A, Lot 1B, and Lot 2 of Red Rock Park, Second Edition, in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 13, Tract 101 North, Range 49 west of the 5th PM, Minnehaha County, South Dakota. Sponsor, Mayor.
Mayor and City Council, due to recent site alterations and plat changes, engineering team of Public Works is requesting to withdraw item 18 at this time. An updated resolution will be prepared and brought forward at a later date.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? All right, Council, can I get a motion on that then? Councilor Sale.
Motion to withdraw item 18.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen to withdraw item 18. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that's going to pass 7-0. Item 19.
A resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of members to certain citizen boards. The sponsor is the mayor. And may I read the names?
You
sir?
sure may.
We have Christian Barnhart with the Disability Awareness and Accessibility Review Board, Wyatt Dixon, Visual Arts Commission, Jennifer Hazing, Michael Jameson, and Joe Schaefer, also with the Visual Arts Commission.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Any of those folks with us tonight? All right. Can I get a motion to approve this list?
Move to approve.
Second, Jensen.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmember Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Nitzert.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0. Item 20, please.
A resolution declaring the results of the City of Sioux Falls municipal election held in the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota on Tuesday, the 12th day of April, 2022. Sponsors, council members Jensen and Nitzert.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. So tonight, you'll serve as the canvassing board for yesterday's election. I just want to preface it and kind of explain, in the past, we've typically done this the week after an election. One of the lessons we learned back in 2020 with our recount, the first one we did in the city's history, is that if we wait an additional week for this recount, then we would push it past the start of the new term. So we're not subject to a recount this time, but we'll stick with it. It's probably a good practice for us going forward. So the purpose of the canvass is to basically announce the results of the election. What I provided to you ahead of time in the public was basically a shell of a resolution showing the potentialities of what could happen based on the types of races that we had and the parameters of our ordinance to determine winners. So I will walk you through this, and basically what I'm going to be asking members of council to do tonight is to make a motion to amend the item that was placed online by substituting what I am showing to you right now. So what is online right now in the top right-hand corner, it's called Res 0041, Resolution 0041. I am showing you on the screen right now Resolution 0041A for amendment. So this is a resolution declaring the results of the City of Sioux Falls municipal election held in the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota on Tuesday, the 12th day of April, 2022. On Tuesday, the 12th day of April, 2022, a City of Sioux Falls municipal election was held. The purpose of the election was to elect one mayor and 4 council members for the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and to vote on 2 amendments to the city charter. The City Council of the City of Sioux Falls met as the canvassing board pursuant to law on Wednesday, April 13th, 2022, which is today, at the Carnegie Town Hall, 235 West 10th Street, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at 6 p.m. to canvass the votes cast for city offices and questions at said municipal election. So before I proceed, I will let you know that today, and in accordance with the law, we did review provisional ballots. So each day at each election, if somebody's, for a variety of reasons, if they're not on the registration list, if they can't be proven at the time to be within that particular voting precinct, they're issued a provisional ballot, which is investigated the day after. That was done this morning, and of the 9 provisional ballots, 3 ballots were counted. The other ones were not Sioux Falls registered voters at all. So I'll continue here. Pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, candidates for the offices of 1 mayor, 1 at-large council member A position, 1 at-large council member B position, 1 central district position, and 1 southeast district position received the following votes. For mayor of Sioux Falls, 4-year term, Paulton Haken, 21,843, Taniza Islam, 7,346, David Zakaitis, 574. For at-large council member A, 4-year term position, Sarah Cole, 13,862, Janet F. Brecky, 9,729, Bobby Andura, 2,732. For at-large council member B, 4-year term council member position, Pam Cole, 10,937, Rich Mercuris, 14,495. For Southeast District Council Member, 4-year term position, Cody Engel, 2,869, David Barranco, 4,151. For the Central District Council Member, 4-year term position, Jim Brzezinski, 963, Emmett Rice-Stroffer, 1,511, Kurt Sale, 2,717. For Charter Amendment A, yes, 13,468, no, 15,370. For Charter Amendment B, yes, 15,706, no, 12,059. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I recommend that the first paragraph be deleted as there will not be a requirement for a runoff. So I'll proceed that pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Paulton Haken received the majority of the votes cast at said election and is hereby declared elected to the office of mayor. That pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Sarah Cole received the majority of the votes cast at said election and is hereby declared elected to the office of at-large council member A. That pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Rich Mercuris received a majority of the votes cast at said election and is hereby declared elected to the office of at-large council member B. That pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, David Barranco received the majority of the votes cast at said election and is hereby declared elected to the office of Southeast District Council Member. That pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Kurt Sale received the majority of the votes cast at said election and is hereby declared elected to the office of Central District Council Member. Be it further resolved by the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Charter Amendment A received the majority of no votes cast at said election and is hereby declared disapproved. That pursuant to the Canvassing Board's report, Charter Amendment B received the majority of yes votes cast at said election and is hereby declared approved. The next paragraph in its entirety, down through for Central District Council Member 4-year term and then name and votes would be deleted as there's no runoff. And it will conclude with this resolution will become effective upon first publication. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item tonight? All right, councilors, do you have any questions for Tom on this? Councilor Sale?
Yes. Tom, there was a little issue with some people being registered in the wrong place or not being able to vote down in, could you address some of that?
They voted, but they did not vote at the right place. That's correct. So there were 3 voters for reasons that I am not completely sure of. Well, let me step back. The folks at the polling place, Dakota Abilities, did the right thing. They were not found on the registration list. They called to the appropriate auditor's office, and it was found that they were registered elsewhere. We received calls about this. and immediately investigated it, and what we found is that there was one address that we found that these folks were living in. It's an apartment complex. There was one address that was basically assigned to a different precinct when it was clearly within another precinct within the central district. Two of the folks ended up going to the other location and voted. They did not vote a central district ballot. One of the other people did end up going back and voted a ballot. In a case like that, again, the folks did the right thing at the polling location, calling it in, checking, the registration list was checked, and, you know, a decision was made on the best data available. We started peeling it back a little further and did find out that, that there was that discrepancy. Denise, right next to you, actually called and tracked down where they voted or how they voted, not how they voted on the ballot itself, but whether they went to a different location or not. So two did go to a different location, one did not. An alternative at the time, and in hindsight, is always voting a provisional ballot. You know, a voter, they were pretty adamant that they had voted at this particular location in the past. But again, seeing what was found on the registration list, that was the best information available. But going forward, we could modify procedures, and if people are that intent, they could vote a provisional. We'll look at it the next day.
Am I correct in my understanding that those three votes would not have tilted any race one way or another?
They would have changed some of the vote totals, but no, not fundamentally in terms of what I just reported.
Thank you.
Other questions for Tom on this? Look for a motion.
I will move to approve.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Neitzer, seconded by Kylie to approve this. Counselor Neitzer.
I would like to make a motion to amend by substituting the resolution labeled Res 0041 with the resolution labeled Res 0041A.
Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Neitzer, seconded by Kylie. Any discussion on that? All right, let's take a vote on that, please.
Councilmembers, pardon me, Councilmember Selbert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
All right, that passes 7-0, so we're back to the main motion as amended. Any other discussion there? All right, let's take a vote on this then, please.
Councilmember Selbert,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Brecky,
Yes.
Erickson, Jensen,
Yes.
Kylie,
Yes.
Neitzer.
Yes.
All right, that item passes 7-0. Move to item 21.
Notice of transfer of appropriations on the memorandum dated March 31st, 2022.
All right, any new business tonight, council? Counselor Sale.
Mr. Mayor, just one point of personal privilege I'd like to point out for those listening and watching at home. The pothole hotline, 367-8002.
All right. Or you can use the CityLink app on your phone. Any other new business? All right, we'll move to public input, 3 minutes per person. And on topics we didn't talk about earlier, come on up for public input. Good evening, sir.
Bob Colby, citizen. Thoughts, observations, and personal comments. How many people voted for the mayor? I've learned long ago that you not only get to represent those who voted for you, but you have to vote and be concerned about the people who did not. Your numbers were good, but they weren't that damn good. 30 years ago, a guy standing here got 1.5 to 2 times the votes that were procured by the mayor in this run. Now, you've been touting your perceived goodness, as all politicians do, but with the goodness, you not only have drumsticks, but you also have feathers that go with this. And I don't see any remorse or any conscience being displayed about activities that the mayor could have done with COVID-19. How many of these people who've passed whose life was shortened, we're all going to die, I realize that, but some of us might like to live as long and full a life as possible. So what percentage of those people are on your record? They're part of your photo. What really the conscience and the remorse bothers me because it's the same thing that I see with our Attorney General and other elected politicians in high order who seem to be putting gold ahead of brown or ahead of people. I can say the following things because I'm a male with an average IQ, white, Republican, and with Christian leanings, and the major competition that the mayor had was somebody who didn't fit all of those parameters, but was a woman, brown, had a name that is not held in high esteem in our community, and probably a Democrat. There's a need for some diversity, what would you say, massaging and bringing those things to the foreground so that we're all looked upon with equal goodness and capability. You know, in the old days, Letterman came up with the top 10 list, and I'd say that the mayor is in about a 5, maybe pushing toward a 6. So maybe in the future, instead of Mayor 10 Hawken, there'll be Mayor 6 Hawken or something of that nature.
Good one.
I mean,
Good
within
one.
the background of these prior mayors that I've had to work with, there were some that weren't all that good.
Covered up your
Let's
timer,
see.
but you got 10 seconds, Bob.
Oh, by the way, I remember you said something about cowboys don't like mandates. I ain't no cowboy, but as a person like a cowboy, I can't.
Thanks for your time tonight, Bob. Anyone else for public input tonight?
When I see it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Emmett Rice Stroffer, 920 South 4th. Just want to say I think it's a historic day in Sioux Falls, and congratulations to you and others who will continue to lead our city. Tonight, my message really is for you, Mayor. I chatted with you for just a few seconds after one of these meetings, and you mentioned something about building bridges. So what I just want to say is on behalf of everyone who participated in this process, volunteers for campaigns, candidates, of course, not everyone wins, but there were so many good ideas that came up. I enjoyed some of the events with people running and hearing all the different ideas. The results were pretty clear, but we do know there's several thousand voters who have had, thoughts for another direction for the city or another, form of views. I guess what I'm asking, or maybe even advice for those who maybe weren't elected or didn't get the candidate they wanted is politics are so divisive. And I really believe you can build that bridge when you talk about One Sioux Falls. And I just hope in the next 4 years that we can all work together. And I'd encourage you to sit down with some of the candidates who didn't make it, some of the folks that really got involved, care about this community. And so I guess I'm just here tonight just really opening up and hoping that some of those ideas that were brought up can still be considered. We often just get 3 minutes at the podium, and that's why I think some more town halls, meetings, getting together will go a really long way in getting us to that One Sioux Falls. So I'm hopeful that someday we'll repeal the grocery tax. That was one of my most exciting issues I heard about this year, and tax relief is so important. So that's my personal plug, but really my message tonight was I hope we can build that bridge between everyone who was involved. Maybe not everyone's happy today, but actually I am pretty happy. I think we're in a great direction. I applaud your optimism. I listened to your speech last night, and the only thing I didn't hear was just acknowledging that there were other folks too, and that's why I wanted to be here tonight to say we acknowledge you, and I'm excited, and I think we can make that One Sioux Falls. So I hope that makes sense, and just congratulations, and thank you to all of you for serving. And I thought the election did go pretty smooth overall. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmett. Anyone else here for public input tonight? Good evening.
Sioux Falls, well, the public spoke on voting, but there's one candidate that I don't think she qualifies, because if people don't get into government and never voted in their lives, how are they gonna sit here on city council? So, it is what it is. So I have one that's not, I'm not a fan of, and I will never be a fan of. So I want to address, we have an 18-year-old from O'Gorman's, and we never see young people in the audience on government. So he sat here and went through the whole process of how government works tonight. So that was good about Tinhaken and the administration's always talking about mentoring here. You know, I wasn't a fan of the youth administration, God, did we ever? And me and Tinhaken has this love-hate relationship here, but sometimes he might get a little frustrated at me. Sometimes we might agree on things, but people that did not vote for him has to agree that this administration is way better than the youth administration. And people wanted to talk about potholes. When Uther was in here, it was like we was in a war zone. Pothole century on Minnesota Avenue. He didn't care about potholes. He didn't care about people's cars getting broken. He wanted to hammer and build. And I'm going to say that we built some stuff under the youth administration, and some of it backlashed. The parking ramp, the city center, a lot of legalities behind the scenes that Paul Tinhaken had to pick up the youthers slack of and all of his dirty baggage. So we have to think about that. We're running in the right direction here with this new mayor that's doing for 4 more years here. I mean, you'll have to think about all of this stuff through the youth administration versus what this administration has went through and what they're striving to do here. So, again, you know, the voters voted, the voters spoke out, but we're going to have some long, hard roads ahead of us with these new council members, but they'll learn and they'll get through it eventually here.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public input tonight? All right, not seeing any, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Jensen. Second, Kylie.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Kylie. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed?